I'm Sonia, a personal brand and style coach. My journey began in the corporate world, and through lived experiences, it's led me where I am today. I've walked in those uncomfortable shoes, faced the same challenges, and questioned my path to professional success while simultaneously navigating my personal style journey and the changes each decade brings. I wholeheartedly believe in the fusion of personal brand and style strategy, as your personal style is actually intrinsically intertwined, not only with your executive presence, but who you really are. I've had the privilege of working with time-strapped female entrepreneurs and leaders just like you, assisting them in discovering their unique brand and style. My mission here is to provide you with practical, actionable strategies and lived experiences to help you unlock your next level of success through the power of personal brand and style. Whether you're already an experienced female professional or someone on the path to becoming one, if you're striving to create that next level of success that leaves a significant mark, you've found your place here. Let's get started. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Style and Strategy. I am absolutely privileged to have on the show this week Gillian Fox, who is an absolute seasoned executive, entrepreneur, author, and keynote speaker with an absolute wealth of experience in driving gender diversity initiatives and leadership development strategies. As the creator and lead of the Rise Accelerate and Rise Elite programs, Gillian is dedicated to empowering women in their career journeys. With a background as a senior executive at Corp and Pacific magazines, has managed large teams and spearheaded impactful leadership programs for renowned organizations like Microsoft, NAB, and Telstra. As the MD of Gillian Fox Group and Your Brilliant Career, she is committed to guiding women towards success by helping them unlock their potential and navigate their professional paths. Gillian is also a respected media commentator, authoring columns for The Australian and contributing to Women's Agenda, among other outlets. Her book, Woman of Influence, and podcast, Your Brilliant Career, serve as great resources for women seeking that next step in their leadership career. Welcome, Gillian, to the podcast.
Oh, thank you, Sonia. My goodness, that's a long bio, isn't it? Thank you for indulging us all.
Well, you've got this amazing wealth of experience that you are now sharing with the world, and I think you've done that all the way through. So why don't you tell me a little bit, how did you actually go through that leadership journey, and where maybe personal brand and a little bit of style played a role?
Okay. Well, let me start just giving a little bit of professional background, because I think the context of that is really important before you sort of hit the brand piece. So I started my career unexpectedly in the media industry. So my ambition was to become a lawyer. So I was studying law at the time, and I just got married. I got married very young. And I thought, I'll just take this job in media. It was at Corp, and I'll finish my degree. Because I was married, I thought I'll study part-time, finishing my law degree, and then I'll go back. But the thing is, I fell in love with media immediately. I loved the madness. I loved all the energy, the people. I could feel the opportunity from a career perspective as well. And I just was less than a year. The law degree was thrown over the shoulder, and I was now in the media industry. And I come from a family in the media industry, and I married into someone in the media industry. So I don't know, there was a lot of pieces that felt right in making that decision at the time. And it did serve me well. By the time I was 25, I was managing a small team, and I spent 9 years at Corp. And then I was offered a role at Pacific magazines, which at that time was the second largest magazine publishing company in Australia. And I took that role. I would have been 31 at the time, I think, Sonia, going way back here. And it was a big job. Like, it was a big step up. It was 120 people in my team. It was 12 magazines at that time. And then we acquired more magazines. We acquired Better Homes and Gardens, Marie Claire, Men's Health. It was a great period of growth and very dynamic leadership experience. And then my last gig in media was with EMA, which is an international media organisation, and I was the commercial director of the women's division there. So I had a great career, and then I stepped out and I started my own business, which would have been about 15 years ago now.
Wow.
And it started as a leadership consultancy, and then it kind of evolved in the most organic way to supporting women in the workplace. So our business is all about women's career advancement and helping them navigate their career, which is why you and I have so much in common.
Yes. That's an incredible journey. So just to give everyone a little bit of colour around Pacific magazines at that time, and you touched on some of the publications, this day and age, we're seeing less and less of sort of the magazine side of things. What sort of other publications were part of that fold?
Yeah, you would be familiar with a lot of them. So New Idea, Girlfriend, Home Beautiful, That's Life. We had Your Garden. We had some periphery ones as well. We really had a lot of ownership in the homemaker and also the tween area. So we had these 2 tween titles as well. I think there was about 15 overall magazines. And then later they also acquired another publishing company, which was In Style, and some other titles. So it was a very fun, dynamic time, and it was a little bit like The Devil Wears Prada in some moments of my career. In there, it really was, and it was such an eye opener for me. I reported directly to the CEO. I was part of an executive leadership team that would meet every week, and that was very insightful for me because I really got to understand the types of conversations that happened around that table, the importance of influence, and that whole mechanic of how important decisions about appointments or decisions in the business can be made at the end of a meeting or very structured in a meeting. And it really just taught me a lot, which I think helps me today. Some of the experiences were very hard. Of course, Sonia, not all of them were easy. I was only in my early 30s. So there's a lot of things that you don't know that you don't know.
Exactly.
But what I can credit myself with during that period is I certainly had a very big appetite to go in every day and do my absolute best. Like, I really wanted to be successful, and I gave so much energy and time to the role to try and create that. And in terms of results, the team produced some extraordinary results over that period, which I'm very proud of. But, it wasn't all easy and glossy. Lots of glammy events, but it was, there were some tough moments too, as there is in any good career, right?
Absolutely. And I think some of those tough times is actually where the grit kind of comes into it to push through. And then at the end of that, you've got some real learnings around that you can take on for those whether it's the next opportunities and so forth. So through that journey that you've had really up to the entrepreneurial part, what was the impact, do you think, around your personal brand that you'd started to develop, getting into the media and then moving forward? And how did that really impact your style?
Well, I know, Sonia, when you think of personal brand, it's very aligned to style and that appearance piece, which I love. Like, I think that's such a beautiful way because as humans, we're so judgmental. We make all these decisions, don't we, in those initial seconds. So the way you present yourself in business certainly has an impact, that's for sure. And for myself, like, I love clothes. And when you talk about the connection between personal style and style, it feels like chicken and the egg for me. Does style come first and then the brand, or is it cultivating the brand and then style? And I feel like for me, they're intrinsically linked in some strange way. Because when I started my role at the very early days at News Corp, I can remember it being very important that I go and buy the right outfits. That was part of the whole confidence and rite of passage that had to happen. And my mum was very much a catalyst of that. She would be like, right, let's go do this. And, then I would get a promotion and off we'd go again, the two of us, we'd go shopping. So that punctuation was really lovely for me because when you, and I'm one of those bulk shoppers, Sonia. So I don't just go buy one or two pieces. I don't go regularly, but I buy bulk. So it's this lovely punctuation in those moments in my career where I have used clothes and styling to really think about, who do I want to be in this next role or in this next organization. And you can fully appreciate going from a newspaper organization to a magazine company where the whole fashion stakes were dialed right up. Like, that shopping expedition was fabulous, Sonia.
You can imagine. I am getting visuals of The Devil Wears Prada in my mind.
Exactly. But that was, I think that was very much for me, and managing myself. I really see it as a self-leadership piece, because it allowed me to step into that role and own it and feel good about myself. And I was very conscious of wanting to present and be experienced in that business environment in a particular way. And I felt clothes helped me do that. The way I hold myself, walk into a room, it helped me either blend or stand out, whatever, do you know what I mean? I was trying to achieve at that time.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So what do you think overall through that part of the journey? And like I said, I'll come to the entrepreneurial side in a moment, but through that journey of your career, what would you say were some of the biggest lessons that you could take away?
Oh, could write a book on that, couldn't I? Which is great, right? Because I always think, if you've got lots of lessons, you've truly stretched yourself in your career. Yeah, because you know what I mean? You are out of your comfort zone trying new things. But yeah, let me share a couple, and I think that will really resonate with your corporate audience too, Sonia. I think one of them was learning to stop being the pleaser in the workplace and learning how to say no a little bit more assertively. And I'll tell you how this point landed so poetically for me. While I was working in magazines, I had one of the editors, quite a influential editor, call me in one day and kind of demand that my team help her with an event that was the following week. And it really wasn't in our remit, but there was a lot of fear from me around the consequences of not helping her. And the extra layer of pressure in all of that is, at that time, my team, they had a lot of other things on. So to impose that on them was a whole nother layer of stress. But the bottom line is, I was terrified that she would kind of marginalize me a little bit in my career. And I didn't actually know how to say no. So I said yes. My poor team had to take all of that on, and I felt like a terrible leader. Like, I was very aware of the impact of doing that and how it felt wrong. And my realization was, after that event, is far out, I need to figure this stuff out, because I have lots of big personalities to deal with. And it is irresponsible of me not to give this the due diligence that it actually needs so I can create better outcomes for my team in the future. So learning how to say no, and I see this as a frustration for lots of women. Right? I've even written a guide on it. That's how passionately I feel. Because I think, as women, we're told to speak up, which is fabulous, like, great. But when we want to speak up, Sonia, we want to do it eloquently. We want to be compelling. There's one way to ask your boss for a raise, and there's another where you can be a lot more convincing and have a business case. I mean, there's so much to be said about your style of communication as well. And I love this idea, and helping women with this idea of, well, how do you say no elegantly? Without losing your reputation, but how do you do that? And that comes directly from my, pain in my career. I would say the other important lesson that I learned, and I learned it at a couple of intervals, to be quite honest with you, is what got you here won't get you there. And it's this idea of landing. And I remember landing at Pacific in the first 4 weeks, working really, really hard, trying to do all the right things. And then another 4 weeks went by, and I hadn't started to achieve the desired results.
Mm.
Yeah. And in my area of the business, was the commercial area, that was very visible. Like you got the results or you didn't get the results. It was simple as that. And I wasn't getting the results. And I can remember being at a meeting with a couple of editors and the finance person, and they said, what are you going to do differently, Gillian? And that one question, like I remember that moment so distinctly. And I remember going back to my office, and I remember the tears welling up in my eyes and feeling so inadequate. And my realization, though, and it did take me probably a couple of weeks to figure this out, my realization was I was doing all the things that got me there.
Mm.
So you can be, saying yes is a great example. You can be the go-to girl, no problem, I've got the can-do attitude, leave that with me, which really serves you well at the front end of your career.
Yes.
But then there's a point where you need to be more strategic. You need to showcase your business acumen. You need to elevate your conversations a lot more. And the realization was, far out, I need to build some new skills here. What got me here is not going to get me there. And indeed, I need to do some things differently.
Yeah.
And I think once you have that epiphany, you can be a lot more pragmatic about it. So what do I actually need to achieve? And that's what the process was for me. And it helped me a lot that, gosh, there's a lot of pain associated with that. And I wish in hindsight that I knew that and I could have prepared for that before I got the step up opportunity.
Yeah, look, those two areas, I've got goosebumps actually. So thank you for sharing those, because I think so many of us can absolutely resonate with it, especially, the being able to say no in a pragmatic way that is elegant is really challenging, because you want to be seen, you sort of strive for that. But I want to be seen as I'm proactive, and I'll take that on. But then when you have that larger team, I can certainly say in my corporate career, I've learned that lesson many times as well. And once you've done it, and if you've got a great working relationship with your team will tell you. And so this is putting more stress on us, and you feel it as a leader. And you're absolutely right in that you won't make that mistake again, and you will learn those boundaries of what is appropriate and what can be done, and sort of the parameters around what can work, or it becomes a whole, stop, start, continue exercise, or a prioritization discussion that you as a leader take on with, your senior management or those execs as well. So absolutely feel you on that one. And then the secondary one, like I said, both of them had really given me goosebumps around it, because I've been in those kind of scenarios. But yeah, definitely the no is one of those challenging areas, especially when we're fighting imposter syndrome to some extent. And I know some people don't necessarily believe in imposter syndrome and that everybody goes through it, but there is some element of, I need to prove my worth, or I need to say yes to certain situations. So having a strategy in place, being able to know different ways of being able to say no in a different way can make a real difference.
I think so too. And I think having the language, like we provide scripts, and we should share it. We should share as a free guide. We'll do it, because I believe in giving women scripts sometimes, because if you get the language part right, that goes in your toolkit and it builds your confidence. Because at this stage of our career, Sonia, we can navigate, those moments a lot more confidently because we have the experience. And, you have that clarity of mind, and you're practiced in it, seasoned in it.
Yeah.
But when you're not, there's a lot of fear in the tank around it. And I think a lot of the fear comes from not knowing how to do it well. Because, your listeners and the women I work with too, like they're high achieving women, like they have high standards for themselves. They want to come across in the business environment in a way that, where they're respected, they're taken seriously, they're impressive. And I think that's a great thing to aspire to. So if you're going to learn something, why not learn it well? And I feel that language gives you that confidence to step in and be able to do things, plus your style.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think, I always talk about, and you touched on it as well, is once you've got that piece on, it links to who you are as that branding component. It's just going to help you show up and be able to make that. The language will, it ends up being like you're a bit of a composer, right? You've got the music right in terms of the language, you've got the look right, and actually it all just ticks those boxes for you. So everything just becomes more authentic, and it's you being able to portray that. So
and you just feel more elevated, right, in that moment. It's
exactly.
just, you just feel like, and then with that confidence, you fill in the gaps for the other parts.
So now, you've been working in that entrepreneurial space for a number of years now, working with lots of, mid to senior to executive leaders really around leadership, their brand and so forth. So what would be the sort of 3 pieces of advice that you would give, that maybe an aspiring, mid to senior leader in reaching that next level from your perspective and what you've seen worked?
I would say the first piece of advice would be own your career. Just own your career. You might have a terrific boss. You might have a fantastic HR person, mentor. You might believe in the universe. But I am a big believer in taking full ownership of your career, because you will have seen this too, and maybe you've been experienced it firsthand. There's the front end of your career. If you're a high performer, is largely taken care of. You get promoted, things happen, it all clicks into place. But then as you get more senior, things slow down. And you have to own your career to create those next opportunities and understand how to navigate some of those complexities. So that would be my first thing. And it's a mantra that I always express to anyone that joins our programs. You have to own your career. You have to plan it. You have to drive it. And that is the good news, right? Because no one's going to care more about your career than you. No one, ever. So get on board with that. I think the second tip would be what we spoke about earlier, and that is, sure, speak up, learn to speak up. It's great, but learn to do it well. Yeah. Have standards around that. If you're going to speak up, learn to do it eloquently, be compelling, and keep practicing that skill, because your communication ability, regardless of what direction you go in your career, is always going to be an asset. And I think my third thing would probably around be building your business and strategic acumen. Because one of the things that I observe with a lot of the women that I work with, when they hit that moment in the career where the promotions don't come thick and fast anymore, things kind of slow down because they're at that mid-level, about to go to the next level. Some of the feedback that they get when they do 360s or just other feedback is, you're highly capable, you're reliable, you're a great team player, you're an expert at what you do. Like, rave reviews on all fronts, but they're not strategic enough.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating, right? There's a great TED talk by Susan Clontuano, and it's called The Career Advice You Never Got. And in it, she talks about how men and women have a different experience through their professional career, and women miss out on being educated on their business, strategic, and financial acumen. And I am with her all the way on that one. Yeah. And she actually uses the example in her TED talk, if we were mentored, Sonia, and you're the female, and let's say I'm the man, you would be mentored on confidence as a female, and I would be mentored on the commercial acumen.
Yeah.
And that's what her research, she's an academic, and that's what her research revealed. And I'm all for women learning how to build their business, strategic, and financial acumen. Like, take an interest in the business. What are the big goals? Ask your boss, what are the strategic initiatives? And then think about, what are you going to hang your hat on this year? Like, don't be the doer in the trenches doing everything. Like, what is the thing that you really want to shine and be known for at the end of the year? And that is part of being strategic, right? Because you're going to choose the thing that is going to add the most value to the business, and it's going to allow you to make your value in the organization more visible.
Yeah, no, for sure. It becomes really your North Star. So if you go back to, well, what do I want to be known for? What taking control of my career, then having your North Star there in terms of trying to navigate your way forward, at least then you've got a bit of a strategy there that's, taking you in that direction. And yeah, no, couldn't agree more. I've seen many cases and, even myself at the beginning of my career where that's where those challenges had sort of, you'd got there and thought, oh, hang on a second, there's a whole piece here that I'm missing. And so how do I do that? How do I get more of that? And that's really that whole being proactive and taking control, talking to people, getting to know others around it, and really trying to, I think, work that muscle. So in looking over both from the beginning of your career all the way through into your entrepreneurial side, what is there an outfit at all? So let's get into some of the fun stuff. Is
Sure.
there an outfit at all that you would remember wearing, or something that had significant milestone, whether good or bad, that you remember through your sort of career journey?
Yeah, I remember too in my magazine days, and I'll talk about how I approach things now, which is quite different. I remember buying two Diane von Furstenberg dresses. One was a classic wrap dress, and it was a long time ago, and her brand was just, it's still beautiful, but it was unbelievably beautiful back then, because I suppose she was still at the helm, and it was just, the fabrics and everything was so beautiful. And I loved those dresses. Loved. Whenever I put particularly the wrap dress on, it was my confidence boost, and it was white and blue, and it was a really lovely modern dress. Yeah. So I have such fond memories of that. And the other, I'm going to give you multiple examples now. and the other thing I remember during my magazine days, it was actually while I was on maternity leave. So when I started that big job, I also had a little baby who wasn't even one at that time. But before I took on the job while I was on maternity leave, I saved up and I bought a Colette Dinnigan dress.
Yeah.
And then in that role, I had a lot of events to go to, at least minimum 2 every week after work. And so I had this sort of like a dusty pink Colette Dinnigan. It was a 2-piece. And I just wore that all the time. So I just wore that all the time to every function. I had a black dress and I had that, and they were basically on rotation. But I always felt good in that. You know what I mean? It was my go-to, and I thought, well, if people see me, there's that woman again in the pink dress, I still felt that I looked nice in it. Yeah. So might be same, but I felt good, and I felt professional.
It would have been fantastic on that.
Yeah, I really loved it, and I did save up for that dress. You know what I mean? Yeah. It felt like the splurge buy. And then today, I do have, if I open my wardrobe, I do have go-to outfits for different things. Like if I'm doing a keynote speaking gig, I have a navy blue dress that I really love. Yeah. If I'm on a panel, I always wear black pants and maybe a pop of colour at the top. Yeah. If I'm doing coaching in the city, I have outfits. I kind of see a little bit more bandwidth with that because it's how I feel, but but it's still got to be professional. And then if I'm in the Your Brilliant Career space where I'm presenting to my public programs, the RISE programs, I feel like I have a little bit more creative scope versus being in at CBA or, KPMG or whatever. So I can be a little bit more flamboyant with my clothing. So I might wear more colour and just more fun things, maybe more informal as well. So I have a lot of fun with my wardrobe. I really do link how I want to feel and who I want to be in that moment to thinking about the outfit. And I know that's not the case for everyone, but that just seems to be something very inherent in me.
And I'm sure, as I've looked at your sort of website and seen some of the programs and things like that there's this thread still of you very much, but it's a dial up or a dial down or a dial to the side around. But fundamentally, it's very representative of you as well.
Well, I think as you get older as well, you become very comfortable in who you are in a multidimensional way.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I remember it was this week, I was down at the beach and took a photograph for stories, and it was really quite unattractive, Sonia, I have to tell you. I just got out of the water. But at the same time, it was vibrant and happy, and you could see the pleasure. Do you know what I mean? And I posted it because, like, that's all me, every part of it. But I know the people that work with me, if I'm going to be delivering something to you, I will be professional, frocked up, ready to rock and roll. But, you know, I'm not like that when I'm going shopping with the boys or doing other things. And I think it's great that we have this world where we can be multidimensional in that way and have different aspects to our personal brand and style that suit us.
Exactly. And it really comes down to the whole, you know, people say, oh, I'm tired of hearing the word authentic, but that effectively is. That's your full 360 of who you really are as well. Okay, so 3 quick questions. One is, you've pretty much answered this already, but if you had to say one signature style piece that you would be your go-to.
Gosh, you got me. You know what? I think it is my go-to safe outfit, and it's a coral pair of Victoria Beckham pants.
Oh, she does the best pants.
And you'll see them on the website because I wear them. And in fact, this week I had a meeting with the editor, well, she's the ex-editor of Vogue now, Edwina McCann. Yeah. And it's like, well, what do you wear? Like, you don't want to be over the top because it's quite casual in there. I was like, let me pull out the coral pants again.
Love it. Love
it. So I would say they are, at the moment when I think about my wardrobe, they are my little go-to piece. Yes.
Great. Okay. Transformational read. So for our listeners looking for a little bit of inspiration, what book maybe are you currently reading or listening to?
Yeah, I'm reading lots of things at the moment, to be quite honest with you. I tend to do that. But in terms of recommendations, like what really has stood out to me, there's been a couple of books actually in the last probably 6 months. One is Kemi Nekvapil's book. It's called Power. Mm-hmm. And you probably know Kemi.
Yeah.
And she is an incredible woman. She writes so beautifully. I just couldn't believe how beautifully she writes. And she talks about everything from her experience being adopted, and it just brought so many leadership things to life for me, but also cultural diversity issues to life in a way that I've never experienced before. So I absolutely, like, that really filled my cup. I loved that book in so many ways. And the other one is by Chelsea Pottinger, and it's The Mindful High Performer.
Okay.
And I think if anyone's listening to your podcast, Sonia, not only do they want to progress, but I imagine they think of themselves holistically and how they can continue to improve as a person.
Yeah.
And if you're of that mindset, I think you would love Chelsea's book because she talks about everything from, you know, sleep to nutrition to just managing yourself in stressful situations. And she's very good at bringing it back to real life scenarios. So it's not at all woo-woo. It's not detached. I feel like her gift is that she provides a lot of very practical things that you can apply. And the book is groaning with tips and insights, but you take what you want from it, right? Yeah. And I found it very nourishing and very helpful. Some things were a reminder and other things were like, I love that. You know what I mean? I'm going to be doing that.
Yeah, fantastic. I haven't read that one. I will put it on my list as well. So last question, mindset ritual. So we all have those days where we need an extra boost. So what's your quick mindset reset that you would recommend?
Well, I am a stickler for getting up early, always have, and I journal.
Yeah.
So if I have a problem on my mind, could be a work-related problem or anything really, I tend to hit pen and paper. I make a cup of coffee and then I sit down. I love the peace in the morning. So my husband or son, no one's up. So I've got the joint to myself. And sometimes I'll put Spotify on in the background and just listen to a little bit of music. But then I write, and I think about how I might navigate that problem. I think about what do I need to be intentional about for the day? all those sort of things. And, I did it this morning. I do it most mornings, and I absolutely love it. It is the thing that allows me to have a better chance of being really productive and just approaching the day with the right attitude and energy.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think, it does help with those days where you want to shoot back an email to somebody and you think, no, I'm not going to do that, and just get it all out of your head and really start to focus in on, what is going on up there, and putting it down on paper can really give you that release to some extent as well.
I love the morning, and I think you can come up with some awesome ideas as well. Like, I come up with some of the best ideas for business and solutions in that time, which is hilarious. So by the time the team comes in, I'm like, I've got an idea. They're like, oh, journaling.
No, that's fantastic. Look, Gillian, thank you so much for joining me on the Style and Strategy podcast. So why don't you tell us how everyone can find you, and maybe some of the programs? I know I've touched on them as well, but I will have all the details in the show notes. So
thank you. Thank you. So our signature program is Rise Accelerate, which is a 90-day career program. It's live, it's online, but it attracts a brilliant cohort of women. And we have one coming up. So it's in March. We only run a couple a year. It's in March, and it's a great program for all the resources, building your toolkit, working alongside a like-minded group of women. I also do group coaching in that, so you get this chance to be coached one-on-one in the program. So all of that is at Your Brilliant Career. So if you jump on there, you'll see the program. You can go to the podcast. There's freebies to get, all that sort of stuff. And the other link that perhaps we can include, Sonia, is the free download on how to say no. So we'll leave that, because I think, people might be interested in having a sticky beak at that as well.
No, absolutely. So like I said before, I will have everything in the show notes. So you just have to go there, click on the link, and connect with Gillian. So thank you very much for all your insights, and I will chat to you soon.
Well, Sonia, thank you. I think the work that you're doing is absolutely brilliant, and you're such a good role model for doing this, because I think you bring the corporate and the style component together so well, which is really inspirational, I'm sure, for the women that work with you. And I loved our conversation, so thank you.
Thank you, Gillian. Thank you so much for being part of this inspiring episode. If you found value in today's discussion, please don't keep it a secret. Share it with a friend on social media, tag me at Your Style Collective, and leave a review. Your support means the world. Join me again next week for another empowering episode of Style and Strategy, the Leadership Series. Thanks so much for tuning in. And remember, you're already taking that first step towards your transformation journey. See you next time.